Hi and welcome to this tutorial of Fractal Architect 4. Today we're going to talk about the animation sequencer and how to move about in that one and how to build up your animation. Let's start with making some random fractals. I click the roll dice button and see if I get something interesting that we could use for this tutorial. I think I want to use that one. So I open the variants editor and let's stick with the colors, but we can move them around a bit and change the color weights and the parameters and the chaos. Let's see what we can come up with. We don't want too much happening in the animation. Don't want too much change at one single time, because that will give you a very busy animation, and if you're not after exactly that, you might want to choose something that is somewhat different, the same. Let's take that one. I drag it over here, and now I have 2 frames in this fractal file. These 2. I can reach the fractal animation sequencer from this button here, and if I have many frames here, I can choose which ones I want to animate, or I can use this same button here. Let's open this one. And the first thing that happens is that it opens up a pop-up window here with a list of animations that are made with these frames in this fractal file. The default is a loop and morph animation. Let's use that one. I'll open it up and I get 4 segments here in the first track of the animation sequencer. The first segment here is selected, and I have now the starting keyframe here. Nothing happens here, but this fractal frame will rotate, the transforms will rotate and will end up at the same place as it started, and then in this segment it will morph from the first keyframe to the second keyframe. Then the second keyframe will rotate and it will morph back to the first one. The animation sequencer here, you see I have some lines here. These are bar lines. I can show the animation in beats, or I can show them in frames. See, these numbers here change to show the number of frames. I now have 120 frames. That's not very much, so I would like to increase the length of them all. I can do that with this context menu. Scale all segments durations, and I have frames now, so this is in frames. Every segment is 30 frames. That's not very much. If I had 200, 400, 600, 800 frames here, that's could be a good length of a first animation. And now I have 800 frames. The beats here, you can't see the white beat lines here, only the measured lines. But if I zoom in, I will see them. From this button here, I can load an audio track. And let's take something from iTunes, just to show you what's going on. I can't play you the tracks now because I can't record the microphone and the audio from the computer at the same time. I will choose one of my own here. Let's take this one, Night Ride, and open it up. And here I can choose if if there is silence in the start of the audio file, I can move it forward here in seconds or in frames or subframes, so I can match it up perfectly to the start of the first segment. You can't see anything now, because the waveform isn't shown. This is a waveform, and you can see that it needs some trimming here, but now I won't go into the details here. To match these bar lines with the tempo, I can enter the tempo here if I know it, and if I don't know it, there's a tap tempo function here. But the principle here is to line up the bar lines with the waveform, and then I can choose to line up the segments with the bar lines like this, and in that way I can decide exactly where I want a specific type of animation to occur in the music. It's very precise. These segments here, I can move them, and I can shorten them and lengthen them, grab the end of them like this, and I can change them, and I can change the start of them too. And there are two modes that is important to know the difference between. Squish neighbors, that means if I change the length of this one, the other one will become shorter. And if I click this squish neighbor, it will change to shove neighbor, and that means that it will move the segments after this one when I change the length like that. And you can see here, if I make a new segment here, let's make another one after this one, insert, here's a new one, and it will be 64 frames long. And I can set, let's delete that one again. If we change this to 200 like that, and click the plus inserted there, it will be 200 frames long. So here you set the length of the new segments. You can enlarge the waveform and make it smaller here. You can also zoom in and out of this, so you can see better what's happening. Sometimes it's faster to move about if you hide the waveform. Now you can of course set the quantize here. That's when you move these segments, they will be quantized in the movements in beats here, so they will snap. You can set an upbeat to a segment 2. And what's more to show here, these segments here, if I want to know what's happening, I can take a look at a little preview. I can click the show thumbnails and video, and it will render 100 thumbnails of the change in this segment. And when these thumbnails have been rendered, it will show a video, so you can see what's happening. This is the transforms of this fractal flame rotating, and this will give you a pretty good overview of what's happening. If you have very long segments, you still get 120 100 interpolation points, and the difference between one frame and another will be bigger, so you will get less resolution. If you double click this one, the segments, the animation configurator will open up, and here you have all the parameters that can be animated, and that's all the parameters that makes up the fractal. Every parameter can be animated. You can see it here, the transforms. You have 1, 2, 3 transforms. I can change the parameters, the pre-matrix, the post-matrix. I can see what variation I have. This is group 1. And the variation parameters. And I can choose which one I want to animate. We will look closer at that in a short while. If I have a music with a beat, I might want to have the animation pulse with the music. And to achieve this, I make another track. And it comes pre-populated with one animation segment. I shorten it. And I can choose to put this animation on the second beat here. You see, I don't put it exactly on the beat, but I line up the middle of the segment here with the bar line, because I want a pulse that marks that beat, and in that pulse I want a change that goes up and goes down again, and the middle of the rise there, that's what I want to line up with the bar line. Now, to copy these, I hold down the Alt key and I just drag them. But let's not do that now. I will want to set up an animation here before I do that. And there are a lot of parameters here, and all you can do actually is experiment which one looks good as a pulse. I have found that transform weights work very good as a pulse. Color gradients, if you use the brightness, for instance, that will also work really good as a pulse. And you can animate the camera. You don't have that here, but you can animate any aspects of the camera. I usually use I think it's on flame here. Let's see. No, not flame. Here you have the looping using rotate sets, for instance. But I think it's could it be parameters? Yeah, here you have the viewport scale and viewport zoom here. That can be very effective to mark the tempo 2, to zoom in or zoom out and zoom in again to mark the beat, so the animation will pulse. Say that I now want to change the weight of the number 1 transform. I haven't checked what the number 1 transform does now, so this is doing it blindly, but let's see what happens. With the variations here in the group 2, this is the pre-group and this is the post-group, I think, and this is the normal group, I would say. The variations with a plus behind, those are the variations that are actually used in this group. And you have the linear here, and you can see it's set to 0.49056994, and let's make that 0.8. It will animate now from this value to this value. It will increase the weight. And here I have a lot of curves. that decide how this value will change. Now I have a linear curve here, but I would like to have a curve that goes up, and at its height it's exactly on the beat, and then it fades again. So I will use this one. And now I can see what the change will do. You have the video preview here too. If I click this, I can click the play button and I will get a rough video of the change. You can see here that it doesn't do that much. That will obviously not be a good marking of the pulse. So I need to find something else. Let's try to increase this more. 2. Let's overdo it so it becomes clear, and then we'll check that. Now you see some movement here, and we'll begin to move back again. There, rather discreet, I think, but it will probably look good in an animation. So let's go with that. So now it could be time to copy this when I have set it up. If I copy it first and I suddenly remembers, oh, I didn't set it up, then I could change the first one and I could copy that, and I can mark all the others and I can paste it in. You have the buttons for that here. But now I have set it up, an animation there, and let's copy it. So I hold down the Alt key and I drag this, and I want it on the 4th beat too. Now I could copy them both and hold down Alt and move them like that, position them right there, and I can keep going like that and rather fast fill my sequence here with the pulse. Now I probably don't want the same pulse all the time, because the music changes, and to make an effective animation that suits the music, I would like to bring in other animations. So I can do that with another track. Say that something happens in the music around here. I want to mark that. Then I can make another animation here. I open it up and set up another animation. Maybe I increase the color brightness or something, so I get a little flash there. I can play the audio. Let's select everything like that. Click the stop button, so it will reset from the start. Now I can hit the space bar and it will play. I know you won't hear it now, but I can ensure you that it plays. Now if I want to animate this now, or let's say that I want to make a test animation. Now when I have the pulse here, I can make a preview video. Let's do that. I don't think you will be able to see very good the pulsing, because you don't get a good enough resolution for that from this preview video. You can see, yes, you can see a little bit of it. You don't get a really good picture how it actually will look when it's ready, but you can see that it's really happening things here in the middle of that fractal shape. But I want to make a test video now. Now I can go 2 ways. Now I can have a very small preview video, 320 times 240, and make it say 300, not 3000, 300 in quality. Or I can make a little bigger, SD 480p for instance, 640 times 480, and I can make it a little less quality, 100. I will do that now so you can see better on this tutorial. I never use the quality scaling when I do animations. I have the two options here. I can create a new video and not save an image sequence, or I can render frames to an image sequence. But I want to make a video directly now without saving a video sequence. If you save a video image sequence, you could have a very long animation, and you could render 100 frames, and then you could stop, and another day you render another 100 frames or something. Probably more than 100, but anyway. Here you set the frame rate, the compressing, and video bit rate, and you set up the animation track. Let's try and render this now to see what happens. I have a special folder on my desktop called animation tests, and I call this tutorial test, like that, and I will render it. And it says here that it will take, this is estimation, around 3-4 minutes. This could rise, and it could be lower. That depends a lot on the fractal. But let's pause this now, and we wait for the render. And now it has rendered, and you can see it here now. You won't hear the music now, but this is how it looks. You see the pulsing here to mark the beat, and it's just a short test rendering. But the trick here is to choose the right fractals and the right parameters to animate. If you put down time with it, you could make amazing animations. And if you want to make something quick and dirty, it can be easily done. To find good fractals that animate in a good way, it's a lot about trial and error, because there are a lot of parameters involved. If I should take this one now, for instance, I open it up, and I want to make some changes to this fractal and animate it. Let's make some camera changes. But if I can do like this. I can I open two of them. I can select it, and I can save as a new keyframe. But these two will, if I do camera changes to these, the changes won't show because it's really the same fractal. So I have the same ID. But if I do like this instead, let's erase that one, and I open the variants editor. I unchecked all of these, and I will get exactly the same fractal. But if I open it up, although it looks the same, it's got another fractal ID, so it's not the same fractal. So if I change this now, not that button, but that button, I want to change it to 3D, so I move it about like that. Let's try that, and I drag it over here, so I have this in the same fractal as a new keyframe. You can see now that I have changed the 3D view of this fractal. Let's do something more. I want more change, so I open up in the Xform editor, and we can see what this transform does. This is the center glow there, and that's this little figure there. So this should be the big circle there. So it's in Julia, and it's Julia with hemisphere post or pre. So let's try to add maybe a loony to the pre. Oh, that's more like it. Let's try that. I'm not sure how this will play, because the introduction of the Luna here can, if we are unlucky, make the fractal animation make a sudden jump into a new value, and it won't be as smooth as we like. But let's try it. You can always get rid of the Luna later if you want to. Like that. Alright. So let's open that in a animation sequence. Not a loop morph. Let's just make it a basic keyframe morph. We open it. So the first segment has the first keyframe morphing into the second keyframe, and the second segment has the second keyframe morphing back into the first keyframe. So let's see how this look. We increase the interpolation points to 100, and we take a look at the thumbnail. Oh, here's the video. Let's take a look. Oh, I think it works just beautiful. You see, the Looney kicks in there, and the 3D view changes. Oh, that looks great. Let's go for that. But I don't want to morph back there. So I copy this. No, I don't have to copy that at all. I have it there already. Let's get rid of that one instead. Now, if I take this one and I make changes to it in the triangle editor, I have a button for it there, and then copy it to here, or copy it to here first and rather change that one. These two will have the same fractal ID, and the changes I make here will affect them both. I don't want that. So I open up this first keyframe in the variance editor instead. And I don't want to have a completely new gradient. I just want to change the X-form colors settings, and maybe the variation weights and the variation parameters and the chaos. Let's see what we get there. Hopefully we'll get something that will animate nicely. Not in that batch, I think. Now we keep looking. Not there. No, I think we need to change something else. Let's change the matrix, but there's no use to change the matrix for the first and second transform, because that's only the inner parts there. Or maybe those inner parts have changed with the Looney. Let's try and change them. Maybe we could use that one, I don't know. Let's put it in a stash. See if we can use it later. No, let's try to change the third transform instead and randomize the settings there. And see what we will get. I think that is better. That could be interesting. No, it's too like that one, I think. No, let's use it. We drag it here and see what happens. Let's make some thumbnail previews and take a look at the video. If we make that segment rather short, this change will go rather fast. And if we sync it to the music, that looks nice, rather nice there in the middle. If we sync it to the music, then it will, I think we'll get it, will be a good pulse. It's not only about having tracks and making pulses that goes with the music, but you can get a long way with just shortening and lengthening these segments so they fit with the measures of the music. So you get a rather fast transitions, set of transitions that will mark the tempo. So now let's make another one. We click the insert button here. Oh, and that's 200 long. That's too long. I don't want it that long. Just one measure like that. And now I want that ending keyframe from that segment, and I copy it, Command C, and I copy it to the first keyframe of this next segment. Now let's make another batch of variants here. Maybe play with the symmetry. Oh, what will that do? This, you get a kind of bowl here with some pink stuff in. Let's change that 3D view of that and see what we will get. Like that. And we drag it to here. And you go on like this and you search for good fractals that will animate nicely together. And that's really the best way to make animations. Every edit you do in the Xform editor, oh, this starts to wobble here. Yeah, that's good, because then I can show you that effect too. Let's take another look on that one. I will get back to the previous thought I had there later. Here things start to get out of hand. And that's because the changes between these two fractals are too great. They don't look to that they should be that great, but obviously they are. And when you have too much change, say that you had made even more change, maybe you this one has a final transform and this one doesn't, or this one has a pre-group and that one doesn't, then the animation between the morph between these two will get wild and funny, and it will start to wobble very fast, and it will not look very nice at all. So if that happens, find new fractals to animate between, to morph between. If I should work a little more now on this one, let's get rid of these keyframes, just keep the first one. Let's open it up in the Xform editor and start changing things. I think it was the third transform that was the big part of this shape. Yeah, it was. So let's add something. Let's add rings 2. I will play with this and say that I like that one, but I would like to play with the parameters too to see what I can get. more or less had this, and it changes into that. I like that. Then I add it, click the add as new keyframe, and I will have it here as a new keyframe. Now I can keep on adding stuff, and everything that I find interesting I can add here. But I don't want to lose this one, so let's make a copy of that one so I have it, because that will be my starting point. Now variations, let's get rid of the not the Julia but the rings too, like that. We add something else. Let's add an polar. We had one here. Where is this? Is an polar. Let's try to add that in the pre-group, like that. That's rather nice. Add that as a new keyframe. You have that there. There. I will show you later why I copied this first one. You will see that. Now from there, let's make another transform. We bring in a new transform there, and we change that. When you make a new transform, it's always a linear as preset. So let's move this about to get those linear patterns. And move stuff about, and we make another keyframe out of that one. Now if I quit this now, it ends up there. So if I hadn't made a copy of it, it would be gone. Now I would like that one to be the first one, and we click it so it ends up as the active keyframe, and I get rid of the extra copy of that one. Now we will pay extra notice on the transition now when we go into the animation sequencer and look at the transition from this fractal frame to that fractal frame, because here we introduce another transform, and we could get a sudden jump in the shape that won't look very nice. Let's see if that happens, or if it will play nicely with us. Open up a new sequencer, and we need a basic morph 2 there, and here we have all those. You can see the starting point where we started to edit. Here we added the rings 2, and then it goes from the rings 2 to the unpolar, I think it was, and from the unpolar to the extra transform with linear, and then back from linear to that one, but I don't think we want that now, so we delete that one. But let's take a look at this one and see what happens when we add an extra transform, if it will work or if it will make a sudden jump. I think it will work, because if it would make a sudden jump, it would start here at the beginning, because that's where we begin to morph into the second keyframe. Yeah, I think it looks very good so far. There you get some nice patterns, and oh, it doesn't go all the way. Why doesn't it go all the way? Well, if we make another one, then too long, just one measure, and we copy this one, Command C, paste it here, Command V, and let's make something. We can change the color, but I don't want 256 colors, that's too much. I want 32. And what will that give us? Oh, let's try that one. Now we'll make a preview of these two together and see where we end up. We will get we'll get a lower resolution from this video because we had two segments that share these 100 interpolation points. And here's come those nice lines, and it ended somewhere around there, and it still ends there. That didn't work too well. Oh, haha, I know why. I had chosen this. I had selected them, but I haven't moved the endpoint. And the selection doesn't decide what segments get previewed, but the endpoints. The starting point and the endpoint. The green starting point and the blue endpoint. So let's make another try. There are a lot of things that can go wrong when you work with animation, fractal animations, and sometimes you have to think a bit about why did that happen. Okay, you see that's why it didn't render all the way, because it rendered until the second last keyframe, but the change with the linear extra transform there didn't kick in until the last keyframe, or the first keyframe of the second segment maybe. Let's look at it again. Yeah, you get a kind of sudden change, but it might work in these with these fractals. That effect could be rather cool, actually. Sometimes you get not so cool effects. If you line that up with something significant that happens in the music, a cymbal crash or something like that, it could work alright. But that is more or less how you go about the animation in the sequencer. And you can make new keyframes from a lot of places. You could make it from the crossbreeder, and you can make it from the Xform editor, and from the variance editor, from the super variance editor, which is actually the same as the animation configurator. So I think that it will be enough for now. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments field below this video. I will try to answer them. So until next time, keep making wonderful fractals. Bye.